Thanks for stopping by the Hitchin Post. My name is Brian Hitchin, and I've been asking myself this question a lot lately. How do I know if my art is any good? How do I get better? What do I compare it to exactly? And so I don't mean to make this video kind of a downer, uh, but I've just been on this for some reason the last few months I've been more and more aware of just how much my art needs to improve and how it's not at any sort of standard that I need it to be. And part of it is that video I did about a month back about artistic standards. I am trying to apply as rigorous standards as I can to my own art. So anyways, I'm just going to get started with this piece that I was doing the last few weeks. It's taken me a little while. I do have a normal job and family, so and don't ask me why. I for some reason I got interested in drawing the Fantastic Four. I'm not even a Marvel guy necessarily, but for some reason I'm like, oh, this will be fun to draw. I've never drawn them before. But anyways, after completing this piece, I guess I've just been very down about my art, I suppose. And it's because there's a lot of people I follow on social media that are very harsh critics, and they're very honest about what they like and what they don't like. And I think that's very important. I think that alone can raise people's standards in order to please people that are very picky. You definitely don't necessarily want to just pursue that one person's opinion necessarily, but hearing what they have to say every so often really encourages me to do better, especially when they talk about the flaws in comic book industry leaders, like Jim Lee. This guy I follow is saying how flat Jim Lee's art still looks, and it's kind of true. And that's a problem that I have with my art. My biggest problem is how flat everything looks. And part of the problem is I've gotten into a comfort zone of just drawing standalone characters floating in nothing. I don't have a lot of backgrounds. I'm finally starting to have at least a floor or a ground for my characters to stand on. That's a start. Kind of how I was going over that in another video of mine where I was drawing the Phantom and the Shadow and whatnot. But it's still something that I definitely need to improve on. And so here you can see that I'm just, you're seeing my process from rough thumbnail doodling while I'm at work to a much more refined pencil sketch, and then some inks, and then eventually color. I wanted to color it digitally so I could record it for you guys, but I don't have a big enough scanner to scan this drawing in, and the photo, the camera phone was just not getting sharp enough. So I had to use colored pencils, which was kind of fun. I hadn't done that in a long time, but it definitely hurt it in the end because I didn't know what I was doing, and now it just looks like a cheap coloring book page, in my opinion. So how do you know when you're good, or how do you know when you're at least better than you used to be? I think you do have to compare your current stuff to your older stuff, in which case I will say I have definitely improved in some areas, but it's only very detail level. Better sense of volume, better shading, better detail, maybe better composition, but there's still a lot of stuff that I haven't really made much gains on at all. And the reason why I don't think I'm that good is because for the longest time I've been comparing myself to my peers. Now, for the most part, in most classes at the Art Institute and in high school, I would see other people's work, other students, other classmates, and mine was usually much better. I'm no ego about it, just plain and simple. I had spent a lot more time in my drawing than they had, and so mine was a bit more refined than theirs. But I took that as a sign of being good. And I think a lot of people fall into this trap where your friends, your inner circle, your family, classmates, they can all reinforce the idea that you're very good, but more often than not, these people are not going to be looking at art on a daily basis. So as far as their frame of reference goes, it's not there's not a lot of context for them to say that that's good. They just know that it's better than a stick figure. They're not going to be able to say, oh well, your proportions are a little off here, uh, your perspective is off, you foreshortened too much, not enough, those sorts of things. So you can kind of get in this rut where you keep doing the same stuff for years and you're not improving at all because you think in your mind, because Granny such and such said that this was the best thing that she had ever seen. And so what I started doing in school was I stopped comparing myself to the peers that I thought I was better than anyway, and started comparing myself to people in the industry that I wanted to be like. I think that's what everybody should be doing, because you're just comparing yourself to the lowest common denominator with your peers. And there might be some of your peers that are much better than you, and that's great. Maybe you can aspire to them if it's not that huge of a leap. If you think, oh yeah, I can do that, and then you work yourself towards that, that's great. But you should be aiming for industry professional level. If you have any desire in doing this stuff for a living, that's what you should be doing. And it's going to be humbling and it's going to be difficult because I mean, my heroes are like Frank Frazetta and uh, Barry Windsor Smith, um, Bernie Wrightson, Michael Kaluta, people like this. They're very detailed, yes, like I like to be sometimes. But the more important thing is their anatomy is on point, man. Their perspective is incredible. Depth of field is something that I think I focus on too much, and instead I'm not focusing on uh, the foreshortening of limbs in a 3D space. I think that's why everything is still looking a little flat for me. But I've been comparing myself to these guys, and it's more and more apparent that I'm not going to get anywhere near there if I don't practice enough. We have so many distractions, and I really want to catch up on the Netflix Daredevil before the season 3 comes out in a couple days, but I really can't be doing that. If I want to be at a level of a Windsor Smith, I need to get drawn. I need to be drawn every single day, without fail. If I'm bored, I should be sketching. I should be referencing more. I need to be learning more anatomy. I need to be learning backgrounds. I don't draw backgrounds ever. And so, and a lot of my problems are apparent in this drawing of the Fantastic Four. I don't feel that Sue Storm here, I don't think she's proportioned properly. I think like one arm is longer than the other, even though she's facing forward. The only reason why she's wearing high heels is because I drew her a little too high off the ground, because I had drawn the Thing first and he was on solid ground. And then when I was drawing Sue, I drew her a little too high, so I had to compensate and put her on her tippy toes. But that's not good though, right? I need to be planning these a little bit better. I need to be erasing more to fix things like that so it looks proper. I don't even think her feet are actually level, like one's lower than the other, even though her legs are the same length and it's facing forward again. Um, so I think we all need to be more cognizant of what it is that we're doing. We can't, I think it's too easy to go through the motions. You get in a comfort zone of what you like to draw, if it's this particular type of face or this particular body type, and you keep drawing the similar poses over and over, and it just becomes kind of ritual. And I think that's the problem me and some other people have with Jim Lee's art, is that he's got the stock photo face at a particular angle burned in his head, and he draws that same face at the same angles over and over and over again. And so it gets to the point where you just kind of repeat the shapes instead of trying to fully form those volumes. And so it's honestly like a science. It's like anything else. Once you start to really learn anything about anything, you begin to be aware of how complicated things are. You can't just start drawing an arm, right? You have to think about your perspective. What angle are you looking at this from to begin with? How close is it? What part is closer to you than the other? And that will dictate every line that you put down. And it's a lot to think about. It's, you know, having so many of those things you have to be aware of while you're putting down these lines, I think is a skill that takes a I think it takes a lifetime, really, to completely develop. And so, like I said, I'm nowhere near where I should be because I've taken very, very, very long breaks. And granted, in my head, I've justified those. My 20s were very difficult, and so I used tragedy as an excuse to not be working on anything because I felt like I couldn't handle it. But in reality, you know, at the end of the day, these are choices that we make, right? And you can make the choice, you know, regardless of what's going on in your life, regardless of what what your responsibilities are. You can make the choice to work or not work on it. And it's tough, but it is a choice. And again, not to not to make this video a bit of a downer, but I think that a lot of us choose to take the easy route, whether that's not practicing enough because you don't have enough time, you have all these other things going on, or you want to aspire to be as good as this artist, and this artist isn't that great, but because they are known, because they're published, oh, well, I'm just going to reach that level and then I'll be good. And while you can do that, and there's a possibility you might find some success there, I don't think it's the best route. I really think all of us need to aspire to be the best that we can possibly be. Because you'll see it in how far you go in your career, right? Most people will not flat out tell you that your art is crap. They will just ignore you. Social media is filled with people always giving their opinions, of course.
Whoa, what?
For the most part, the majority of people will just take a look, decide they won't like it, and they'll move on, right? They're not going to they're going to essentially vote with their dollar, right? That's most people. So if you are not getting any feedback whatsoever online, like I am, I'm not getting a ton of feedback. I've barely been at this for a couple months though, but I'm taking that as a cue to improve. Because if people are seeing it, and I can see analytics and people, there are small numbers, but they are looking at it, but then they're not interacting at all. They're not commenting, they're not liking, they're not following. So that tells me that it's not standing out enough, right? It's not at a level that's interesting or good. And it doesn't take an art critic to see that. They might not be able to say why it's not good. They might not be able to understand that your perspective's off, but innately because we observe the world every day, they'll be able to say that it doesn't look appealing. So that's all I wanted to go over today. I think that, like I was saying in my standards video, we all do need to raise our standards, I believe. But part of my reason for doing this is that I'm hopefully showing you the process of me raising my standards and trying to get better. Hopefully 1 year down the road, way later on in this channel, I'll be at a level that I find acceptable, and I'll start growing an audience. And hopefully people will be able to look back at these earlier videos and be like, wow, this guy has really grown over the years. And look at what he was going through here. And he was being aware of the problems he had. And look at where that's got him now. So I'm hoping that this is a process I want to share with everybody that will hopefully inspire or encourage others to apply the same mentality to their own process. Because I see a lot of people out there drawing the same thing over and over, and I'm doing that as well and not getting anywhere with their art. And I think if I keep doing pieces like this, I won't go I won't go anywhere. I had fun drawing it. I've learned a few things about it, but I can't get comfortable with that, is what I'm saying. So anyway, guys, hope to see you around next time. I know it was a pretty big gap in between this video and the last. Like I said, I do have a job and I do have responsibilities at home, but I'm going to be trying to put out continuous videos. Hopefully it's every other week or so. But I do have plenty planned. Those of you who liked my artistic standards video will probably like the next one. It's all about when entertainment becomes propaganda. It'll it'll be a fun video. But anyway, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you again next time. Take it easy. See ya.